How grainy we look.
How grainy we look indeed. Happy Thursday. Um, it's Thursday, 10 a.m. Here we are again. Real estate now. I'm Keith Pitch.
Stacy Chevalier, good to be here.
What's up? What's new with you, Stacy?
Just a wonderful, sunny, beautiful day in the Pacific Northwest. Month end,
Yay.
all the fun stuff happening. It's good.
Did you stay up last night late and watch the meteor showers?
No, that would be a no. If you know me at
That's a
all,
no.
I'm not a late night person. I'm night, real early.
Well, it was supposed to be spectacular last night. Two meteor shower events were coming together, and anytime between like 11 and midnight 30, 1 o'clock. It's supposed to be fabulous. I was asleep. I was asleep. So,
All right, we're too old. We missed
anyhow,
it. For anyone who didn't, I hope you enjoyed the show.
I to the show. Indeed. So, it will still be great tonight. So, if you guys do want to go find one of those rooftop bars or just kick it outside tonight, just throwing it out there, a little PSA. Go watch the meteor showers. Super fun times. So hey, let's jump into it. We've got a fun, exciting show. We're going to talk about relocations because it's rampant right now. But before we do that, we're going to do what we always do. We're going to talk about the interest rates. And guess what, Stacy?
They went down.
No,
Oh, they
they
went
went
up.
up just a little bit, a 0.02% increase. So I mean, if you can call that going up, I guess
You're
it's
gonna take
going
it
up.
because I
But
keep winning, so I think Keith is gonna take that as a win that they went
I
up.
I am totally going to take that as a win.
Yeah.
um, Up, though it's statistically almost irrelevant, I will take it. I get a tally mark on my side. I will have to, like I said, I'm going to get the whiteboard out and I'm going to like tally your like 16 weeks to my 4, and we'll just go from there. But with what's been happening this week, I think we'll definitely see more downward trend. And it looks like a lot of the folks that we're talking to, as far as where the trends are going into 2023. The great thing is, I'm getting mixed signals, right? Some people are saying we're going to nosedive and go back down. Some people say we're going to go back up, which I love mixed signals because no one knows what's going on. So,
That's a true
carpe
statement. Yeah.
diem. Yeah, carpe diem. Take advantage of the rates now. They're back below 3. If you missed it on the first go round, don't miss it again. It's a great time to borrow money. So
Look at that
that's
15-year
enough.
rate. That's crazy for anyone that can jump into a 15-year.
Yeah, super
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Um, Back down to 2%. So I've got one that wanted to do. Whoops, I'm on the wrong screen. I'm trying to go all these computer things. I've got a client that quoted a 10 year, and the 10 year was under 2. So I was like, woohoo! So let us know how we can help take advantage of the market because the market is still great with regard to interest rates. Inventory still not so great, but interest rates are awesome.
Yeah.
So today we're talking about we're going to focus our mortgage nugget on something that's very, very prevalent right now. People are relocating, Stacy. They're, they're
They
they're
are.
packing up. They're packing up, and they're dispersing. I
Yeah.
I I am calling this the reverse of the Industrial Revolution, where the Industrial Revolution built these super cities and metropolises and what have you, and people congregated to the major market centers. Now, I think with the advent of and um, I guess forced homestays with coronavirus over last year, companies are saying, "Hey, you guys don't actually have to be here in the office." So people are looking to go like this and go outward. So, what's your pulse on the situation?
Yeah. I know people have moved all over. You are being one of them. A lot of people in our team are all over the place, and friends and family. But I will say I'm really surprised that some city centers are staying really relevant, and their prices are going up, and people can't get in when they want to. So it's interesting. It just feels like people are moving kind of in all different directions, and really the inventory is just not there, regardless of where people are moving to. But yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, I feel like
absolutely.
people are kind of, some are moving to cities, some are moving out. I thought a lot more would move out, honestly. I thought the
Well, I'm
cities
glad
would
you.
like all kind of be very quiet, and it doesn't seem like that's happened.
So I'm glad you said that because um, our good friend Bob the inspector, turned us on to an amazing list. What was that? Back in June, and he said it's a very interesting article that Uhaul
Yeah.
does their annual survey. So do you remember who was number one as far as net new migration per U-Haul, right? Net new migration, what state that was?
I remember, I think I was surprised. I don't remember. I'm going to guess, though. I'm going to guess Texas.
Texas. Oh, you were so close. You were guessing the bridesmaid, not the bride. Number one was Tennessee.
Wow.
Tennessee
Okay.
had the number one net migration of U-Haul trucks to the state. So it was very interesting to me. So what U-Haul's doing is they're looking at number of trucks one way being booked into the state, and then they're subtracting out number of trucks being booked out of the state one way, and they're coming up with a net number. So the most growth in U-Haul fleet in one state in 2020 was Tennessee.
I love
It,
that we're
it,
looking at the report. It fascinates me, but it's so relevant. So it looks like
yeah,
Tennessee, it's the first time they were number one. And so Texas, there you
first
go. They're number two 5 years in a row. So they are always the
5 years
bridesmaid.
in a row. That is some solid growth down in Texas. So looking at all of them, we've got Texas, Florida, Ohio, Arizona, Colorado, Missouri, Nevada, North Carolina, and Georgia is the top 10, right? What I find very interesting, look how far Tennessee moved up. They moved up a whole 11 spots from 12 to 1. That's a huge
Yeah,
jump.
that's
So,
fascinating.
um,
Does it say the
uh,
opposite? How many are leaving? Like what
well,
states are
so
leaving?
yeah, you could just flip this in reverse, right? So this works in inverse order. So where do you think Washington is?
I think it's pretty
Not the
high
top
up with
50.
people coming in. I think California is the only state losing people. Is what I think.
Look at this. We're down into number 36.
Wow.
Washington went from number 5 in 2019 to net new U-Hauls to number 36.
A lot
That's
of people
crazy to me.
leaving the West Coast, it looks like.
Yep. And yeah, as you mentioned down there, our friends to the south, California's been in the bottom spot for 2020, and then second to last in 2019. So very interesting how that is all playing out. So what does that mean for you in the market, and particularly in the mortgage world? Uh, I really, we've been talking about this show for a couple months, and wanted to bring this up because we have people calling us up every day saying, "Hey Keith, I'm gonna move from one place to the next, and how does that work mortgage wise?" And it's a super valuable conversation to have right now,
Yeah.
because there's ways to be successful, and there's ways to totally blow up your mortgage transaction and leave you renting a house. So let's jump into it.
Yep.
What do you think the number one concern that we as the mortgage world have? Anybody want to throw that into the chat?
See if there's anything in there. My guess would be stable income.
Stable income. Ding, 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 ding. Winner, winner. Um, Most people are transferring with their job, right? Seattle, we have the great fortune of having all of these tech companies that have either a San Francisco branch or some sort of Bay Area tie, and people from the Bay Area are transferring up here left and right, and they're staying with their same company. We love seeing that transition. That is a beautiful transition. We get from their employer a letter stating, "Yeah, Johnny Smith is moving from the Google campus in uh, I think they're in San Mateo. Forgive me, all you tech folks. In the Bay Area somewhere, and they're moving up here, right? So they're going to continue to work for Google, and we have great continuity of income. We love to see continuity of income when we're lending out millions of dollars. We want to see that you've got a job, you've had a job, and you're staying with your job. So
Yeah.
that one is fairly simple, right? We're staying with the same employer. The employer is telling us that we're cool with the move. It's when we don't have that continuity that we have to take a look at it. So here's where we sometimes run into problems. I'm currently working with one company. I'm coming to relocate to a new city with a new company.
Same line of
Now,
work. Let's start there. Let's start with same
thank
line of work.
you. Thank you. Now, the important part is that you stay in the same line of work. So, what's an example of same line of work, Stacy?
You are a construction worker building homes for a local company here in Washington named, there's all sorts of them, and you move and you now work for a different home builder. Same, you're
Right.
still an electrician.
Yep. You're still that framer. You're still the roofer. You're still the plumber, but you're moving from one city to another. You got a new job in the new city with a new plumbing company or a new electrician company, that kind of thing. That's cool. We can work with that. Um, it's kind of when you go from not the same line of work into a new line of work that gets you into big trouble. And this has come up. I had one of these back in June where we had a tech person go into a completely different sales job, right? So they weren't selling, they were a project manager for one company, and then they went into, uh, they did the big switch into commission based sales, right? So they went from a salary position to a commission position in a different line of work, which
So
really
picture you work
dynamited
at
it.
you work at a restaurant and now you want to go into lending,
Mm-hmm.
commission only, you're in a new state. So how do you look at that when someone jumps to commission, whether they move or not?
Yeah, whether you move or not, that's a great question because it's outside the realm of even the concern of relocation. If we're moving from one industry to another and you're completely changing job functions, we're going to want to see that you've done that for a year, at least a year. Typically, if you're there for 2 years in a new form and function, it's really no question. We're going to accept your income. If you haven't been there for at least a year, there's no way around that. We cannot lend on you because you don't have stability in income yet. So you have to get at least a year down that path. So in making transitions, you definitely want to take that into account that you're not jumping into a situation where you're no longer bankable. If you lose your bankability and all your plans fall apart from a housing perspective, now you're left to rent, couch surf, you name it, but it's not the plan that you wanted to do. So definitely reach out if you guys have a transition in process or you're thinking about a transition. Definitely reach out to us. Let's go through the numbers and let's go through the scenario so we get the outcome that we want. So super important that.
Yeah. What about if you're
Um,
W-2 to W-2
W
moving
W two we
in
like.
different, totally
Yeah,
different jobs, but both W-2?
well, that opens up a really interesting conversation piece because let's take into account job function, right? So there's a couple of considerations. Are you in the same industry, right? So if you're in the tech industry and you go into automotive, right, and you're going to go become a mechanic, that is a definite change of industries, right? Unless, let's say that you are the front office uh, administrator of the tech company and you're going to go be the front office administrator of the auto company, right? So the mechanics company. If you're doing the same job functions is what we really look at, then we can have that continuity of income. But if you're going from I am a software engineer and now I'm going to go change brakes on cars,
Yeah.
that's not continuity. So that's where we really look at it. I've had folks that have been in uh, different situations like that, that we've been able to change industries because their job function has been the same. When the job function changes, you can't be a dentist and then go be a librarian, or a librarian to dentist, unless you get that year's work in, and then we can go from there. But super, super important to not shoot yourself in the foot. But the other thing that's really interesting with the whole relocation, there's companies, I'm not going to name any names, a lot of you guys know them, and more companies are adopting this mindset. Companies are cool with you relocating, but they have now what is called geo-specific compensation plans, right? So let's say somebody is moving from Seattle, and I've had this is a real life example. They're moving from Seattle, and they work for a company that will allow them to relocate to Missoula, Montana, right?
Yep.
The job in Missoula, Montana does not pay as much as the job in Seattle because the cost of living is completely different, right? You've got a place in Seattle where the median household listing price is just over $900,000 to a market that the median household listing price is about, four and a quarter. So in the transition, and I've seen this in the letter saying, yes, John Smith is able to transfer to Missoula, Montana. His new income will be X, right? So that new income rate is what we're going to have to use to qualify John Smith for his new transfer mortgage. So just keep that in mind. It's a great question to ask your HR departments in that conversation period of looking to transfer and relocate. Is great. Is relocating going to have any impact on the compensation that I'm currently getting paid? Debt to income ratio is important.
Yeah. Very important.
Another situation, what if you're going to relocate without having a new job? What do you think, Stacy? Can we relocate
I
without having a new job?
how do we lend hundreds of thousands of dollars with no job? Are they
That's a
do they have a lot of assets? Are they retired?
mhm.
What are we looking at?
Yeah. So the workaround there that I have found is, um, case in point, we had a gentleman that is a mechanic, and his job is very in demand right now, right? So we're able to, instead of doing a primary residence, we're able to do a second home for him because he could qualify with his current rent payment in Seattle, and he wants to move over to Cleellum. So we're able to qualify him both with the Cleellum mortgage payment and his current rental payment, and buy that as a second home. And then
But he has no
once
job.
he does have a job here,
Oh,
so his
he
job here in Seattle
got it.
is enough to support both his rental lease requirement here in Seattle and purchase his second home
Got it.
in
Yes.
Cleella. So then once he's got the home in Cleella, he can then make the transition over there, and he'll no longer have the financial obligation of the lease here in Seattle. So that is one kind of workaround. You could purchase as a second home and use the effective income here, so long as you can qualify for your housing payment here and your housing payment on that second home. So
Yeah.
that's one workaround that we've done a handful of times that's been very beneficial. Well, like I said, not everybody's going to be able to qualify because you're literally taking on two housing payments at that point.
Right.
So, um, some other things outside of mortgage to take into account is taxes. Taxes,
Yes.
taxes, taxes. Each state is a snowflake with regard to how they have taxes, so they're unique in that respect. Our friends down to the south, well, it's kind of interesting. Here's Washington, we're up in the corner, and our friends to the south have income tax, state income tax, up to 10 point something percent. Our folks over to the east, Idaho, they have income tax up to 6.9% at the top bracket, right? So
Yep.
when you're looking at moving and relocating, here's a really important question. Not from a mortgage perspective, because guess what, guys? We're going to qualify you off your gross income, right? So we don't care what happens tax wise. So when you go into a new state, Oregon, for example, and you're taking a 10% haircut off your gross income, you got to look at your disposable income. Super important. Um, the last one, the last one that I have that I wanted to check on was this also was a relocation from Seattle over to Montana. Um, the clients get over there and they call me up and say, Keith, we may have made a mistake. The internet out here sucks. I'm like, what do you mean the internet sucks? It's like, if we get past like 4 megabits of upload download speed, that's a good day for us. So when you're relocating, especially from a tech savvy city like Seattle, Kirkland, Bellevue, and what we have here in the Puget Sound area, we've got some pretty amazing internet speeds, right? So definitely keep in mind where you're relocating. Look at the service providers out there. What can they offer you? It's super easy. Search them. Say, hey, type in the address and say, who does internet service for this address? And figure out what their upload download speeds are. And make sure that you're not putting yourself into internet purgatory, because that could highly impact your job, especially for the folks in the tech sector that are relocating to get out of the city. So um, past that, I didn't have too much more except focusing on the income and that transitional income uh, in this whole transition space.
Have you
What
had
if
any
you
clients
go?
like the one you just talked about that moved and then they're like, oh, maybe we made a mistake? Do you have anyone that has
Mhm.
actually moved back to wherever they left from?
Not yet, not yet. I've got a handful of people that moved in 2020. So I'm really curious as I do my annual check-ins with them, how many are ready to move back. I had a really interesting conversation with an Idaho real estate agent. Um, Jokingly, he was saying that he loved California buyers because he knew he got two transactions out of it. He said a California buyer that moves to Idaho in the summer will be selling in the next spring because they move up in the summer and they love it. It's nice. It's in the upper 80s, lower 90s. And then they go through the first Idaho winter and they're like, nope, I'm out. So he's like, yeah, we sell them in the summer, we list them in the spring. So I guess to that point, I think climate might also be a very important thing to check on. If you are um, if you are requiring a particular climate, it's super important for you to go in and look at what is the average temperature in January, right?
Yeah.
So it's another consideration to think about when moving. I
Yep.
wanted
We do
to,
have a couple questions in the chat. Yep, there you go.
yeah, here's a question. What if you go from retail management to straight commission? How long do you need to wait before your income qualifies? Stacy, you want to take that one?
I'm going to guess 2 years.
Okay, go for it. Yeah. 2 years. That is the general rule of thumb is 2 years. Now, I would have a follow up question to this one, Chelsea. My follow up question: management, retail management, sometimes comes with a compensation piece, right? So if there's a compensation
Commission.
commission compensation piece, there we go. That's what I was looking for. If there's a commission compensation piece to the retail management, there is a legitimate argument to be made and to be discussed through underwriting that hey, yeah, they made $70,000 on their salary, but they also made another $40,000 worth of commission in their retail management position. So they are accustomed to being a commission based employee. So there's a conversation to be had there. General rule of thumb: if you go from a traditional W-2 salary or 40 hours a week person to commission based full time, it's a 2 year wait period.
Yep.
Great
If
question.
there's anyone out there listening and they're younger, give me a call because it's a good business to get into, but it's can be easier to get into it when you're have less stuff when you're younger and you're
Overhead.
jumping in the commission world. So
yeah, let's just say it. Before you got a bunch of stuff that you have to pay for, it's a good time to become a commission person. I'm really grateful because I started right out of high school into the mortgage industry, so I didn't have a lot of overhead, so I could build up and get the clientele. And for all of you that have a big balance sheet that you need to have that income coming in, it's a good industry to get into too. You're just you're right out of the gates on fire is what you have to be. Patty, this is a great question because our baby boomer community and what Gen X is now starting to tip the scales into retirement.
Yep.
So, what if you're working full time and you're going to retirement? How does that look? This is probably a once a week question that I get because so many people are making this transition. They're making the transition from their family home. They had the 3, 4, 5 bedroom houses, and now all the kids are gone, and they're looking to retire. I've made it. Congratulations to you guys first and foremost for getting through it and dedicating your lives back to your society and making that happen for the last 10, 20, 30, 40 years, whatever that is. But retirement income is a super cool thing. The retirement income has to start within 60 days of your closing. So pensions, social security benefits, annuities, they have to start within 60 days of your closing date, right? So we can close today on 7/29, and so long as those benefits kick in and the first draw is happening by September 29, 2021, you can use that retirement income to qualify. Super
So, and you
awesome
would
question.
just use the retirement income, not your current income.
Yeah, so full-time income gets pushed to the side. You're done with that. Your retirement income comes front row center, and we're going to underwrite based off that debt to income ratio. So that's a
What
really,
if
really good
someone
question.
knows they're going to retire and they don't tell you, Keith, and we approve them off their current job, and 3 months later they
Okay.
retire? Does it, we're all good? What happens?
Um, maybe we're all good. Um, here's why that's not advisable. And this happens a lot. And this is a shout out to you, Boeing employees. Be careful of this one. If you are scheduled to retire, right, we're going to do what's called a pre-funding verbal verification of employment. And this has blown up 2 deals in the last 2 years for me. Is the client told me that they said, "Oh yeah, I work at Boeing. I'm going to go through this." Well, when we did the verbal verification of employment, they said, "Yes, so and so works here, but they're scheduled to retire on such and such a date." That blows up the deal because we don't have continuity of income. The underwriting standard says that the income used to qualify is expected to continue for at least the next 3 years.
Yep,
So
the answer. Yep.
if that retirement date is in within the next 3 years, boosh, the deal just blows up, and it's got to be either restructured with the retirement income, or worst case scenario, it may have to be completely denied, and that's no fun for anybody because that happens there within 10 days of closing. So you get through the boxing match of getting a house under contract, you get through the mortgage process, the appraisal, the title, and then in the 11th hour, the deal blows up. So if you are scheduled to retire, make it be known. Let us know so we can make sure that we set you up for success and not an 11th hour failure. No one is happy in that situation.
Yeah.
So, yep. There looks to be, no, that's you, Stacy. There looks to be another question. Does there have to be a letter to show those items starting within 60 days? Oh, good question. So I think, Jamie, you're referring back to pensions, Social Security, and annuities. Yes, you will have to document what benefit you are getting from those outlets. Same with documentation for relocation from employers. Employers will have to provide you with a relocation letter saying that, yeah, Sally Smith is relocating to this place. She's still going to be here full time. So, in any transition and anything mortgage related, you will have to document it. So that is a good question to know that you can't just say, "Oh, hey Keith, I'm going to retire next month and I'm going to make 10 G's a month. So just go ahead and underwrite it that way. Put me down as retired. We're good." that won't fly. So we will have you ask you to document it. So there you have it. Relocating and transitions. I think this is inspiring. Patty's question makes me think that we need a retirement show, Stacy, because retirement incomes and retirement assets that you can put on an application are very wide, and a lot of people don't know what they can do. So I think that might actually spur on a retirement show. So anyway, well, thank you guys for all the questions. Super awesome. And if you do have any further questions about relocations, let us know. I can't believe we're already at 30 minutes and 35 seconds. But I want to keep it on pace, on track, and go from there. So you got any closing questions, Stacy?
I don't. I'm excited. I am jealous of everyone that was able to do this. I did it for a stint, a couple of months, and I wish I had just moved too, but temporarily. I did a temporary move, but no, I'm happy where I'm at back in Valdivia. But no final questions for me, but we have a good show next week about all about diversity. So we're excited.
Diversity show, yeah. And just remember, Stacy, we do second home loans all day long. So you can buy that second home of your dreams. Yes. And you can go peace out for either if you need to snowbird it or if you need to sun winter. I don't know. Whatever it is, we do second homes. Just throwing it out there. Let me know. Call me.
I'll give you a call.
Right on. Well, have a great weekend. We'll see you guys next